Everybody, JK here from Animator Island. Welcome to today's live stream. It's going to be a relatively short one today. We're going to draw some gestures and kind of speed through because I am very busy today and tomorrow and forever. Probably not forever, but there's a lot going on over here. I was taking trees off of roofs earlier today and meeting with people and doing other things, and it's been crazy pants. So we're just going to do some quick drawing today. Feel free to grab a sketchbook, draw alongside, or open up your favorite art program and do some drawing along with me. Or you could just watch. Either way works. And I was trying to think. I think that's pretty much everything. So we'll go ahead and get that started. Let's fire up the iPad here, and we'll get to it. And feel free to chat away in the chat if you're interested in asking any questions or making any comments or anything of that nature. I know it's a little bit of a late live stream for our regular schedule because usually they happen earlier in the day Eastern time, and today we're going close to dinner time already. So all right, let's jump in. Previous gesture drawing sessions that we've done, you'll see on the left there. We have two that we did 3 times in a row to kind of push things and try things and change the pose slightly. And then the last one, the figure skater at the bottom, was the previous gesture drawing live stream that we did where I tried to animate based on just one gesture. And I don't know, it was relatively successful, I guess, but it was at least a good experience and experiment. So today we're just going to kind of do a little bit more of speed gestures to kind of run through these. I will probably talk a little bit through the process, but mostly we're just going to be drawing and getting it done so that we can get that practicing. Because remember, you don't get better unless you practice. Okay, so start with our main line for this pose, which I could go in multiple directions here because we've got a very wide stance and then with a pole and everything. But I think I'm going to go with this for our kind of main line, and I've already made a mess of that. Oh, I need to drop the opacity a little. I think that's my problem. Okay, so we got our main line in here, and then we can go ahead and put in the different aspects. We, if you've watched any of the other previous live streams, you will know that I usually put in the solid forms first. So we have our skull, the torso, and then the pelvis. And we kind of get those in their rough place. And then we can go in and add in our other aspects, the appendages and such. And she's got a twist. So the front of the torso is slightly to the, well, it's facing that way, but then the pelvis is slightly more front centered. So we've got this twist in the body here. So that's something to kind of keep in mind just as we're drawing it. And the other arm goes down. And then we've got the pole kind of at that angle. All right. So this would give us all the information that we need to complete this pose, essentially. If I turned off the photograph reference, or if it was a live model, if the model moved, there would be enough here to get a general idea of what's happening and recreate the rest of the pose just from this, and then using your knowledge of anatomy and stuff. But since we have the photograph and the model's not going anywhere, we can go ahead and just keep tweaking stuff. I didn't do, usually we do the pelvis tilt and the shoulder tilt, but I skipped that this time. Whoops. I really like this foot. You can't really see it because of the fabric, but I like how we've got this kind of really strong push off of that leg. It's got a really nice feel to it. This whole pose has got a really powerful feel to it, which I appreciate. This is somebody who knows what they're doing, I think. It's likely that this person is not they're not just posing. They're really into whatever this action is. Hiley's here. Hey, Hiley, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by. Feel free to jump in and do some drawing. I don't know what you're up to, but always fun to get some drawing practice in if you're interested. The nice thing about these, they're recorded. So you might be watching not live, in which case, definitely, grab a sketchbook and join in because then you can pause and, I could just blow this up. And you could pause right here and then you could, use that as a drawing prompt. So really good thing to do. All right. So we've got this really nice angle here in the back, which I'd like to capture. That's a really nice aspect of things. And then we'll go down to there. Now we can come here and we'll get this back arm in. And the pole. Let's see, the pole kind of goes to here-ish. Do the measurements. Doesn't have to be perfect, but I'd like to get it slightly in the right place at the right angle, because that's good to practice just to get your proportions and see where, negative space is. I could see that some things are off, but that's all right. It's not the end of the world. And this pole comes up to right about there. Okay. So that's let's get this kind of line in here just to push that a little bit. And then I'm going to drop the opacity of my brush and I'm going to, that was too much drop. I'm going to just kind of add in this shading on the back forms, which I think just kind of completes the drawing a little bit, and you can add in some, shadow if you want in different places. But I just find that doing that kind of makes things pop a little bit. And then I'm also going to go in and erase out this arm just to show that it is on in the front, because you couldn't really see it before, and it's kind of an important aspect of the pose. So you can always go back in and erase and such. Okay, so I think that's kind of capturing the spirit of the pose and going with kind of a nice feel for this one. And we'll leave it alone now. Otherwise, I'm gonna sit there and tweak things until it's lost all of the life in it. I'll move on to this fellow. Okay, so this pose for our kind of main line, because the head is over here, I'm going to start the main line there a bit, but then I'm going to bring it down sharply here because I think that this is going to capture this guy nicely. And so we'll get the head in here. And then we've got the torso here. And our pelvis, just going to be a little more square shape on this one than the triangle I like to use. And we'll get this down, and then we've got all of this weight on this skate because his other leg is up. So this is where all of his weight is going, and then this leg's going to come down here. Go like that. And then the shoulders have this really nice tilt to them where this arm is in the front, coming out like this. I'm going to change this a little bit. I'm going to get that hand forward a little bit more, I think. Because we could take some artistic liberties with it. I think it just will give us a better silhouette. So that's why I'm doing that. And then this one also, I'm going to kind of get out a little bit. I might actually tweak that even more. Let's get that out a little bit more, just to kind of give it some separation. All right, good deal. So we've got the trapezius up here, and then the back is pretty flat into leg here. This leg's gonna come out here. Knee. It's got some heck of a calf muscles there, and then foot back. I'm going to add the wheels of the skates just so that I can remember that that's what was happening here. Normally I wouldn't go into so much detail on that, but I think that it's nice to remember later on that he was skating, because it's a cool skating pose. Now we need to capture the face kind of looking back at us, because that's kind of a key component, I think, of this particular pose, is that backward look. So I might even put in a little more detail in the face than I normally would. Just some very loose facial features in there, just so that I remember that he's looking backwards. And then again, we'll erase out some things so that a little more definition in here. All right. Erase this out. And then we'll drop our opacity and go ahead and put in the darker shade on the back stuff so that you get that feel of dimensionality. And I'm putting in just some extra line here to kind of get a feel for where that leg should be and what I want it to do, because it doesn't quite work in the way I wanted it to. But all right, that works. And then we need to get kind of a little bit of a ground plane in here, just so that he's not just not off the on nothing. I'll just ground it a little bit more. Okay. Not super thrilled with that one, but it is what it is. We'll move along. Go down to Rafael Nadal here, who happens to be my own favorite tennis player. Don't think he's retired yet, but it's probably close. I will be sad that day, but he had a good run. All right, so this one's got some really nice foreshortening and such. And so our main line here is going to be really kind of interesting. Go up like that. And head's going to be up there. And then we've got the torso, which is kind of in perspective here. So we're going to have to widen it a lot. And then pelvis is behind the torso, kind of hidden a bit. And then that leg's going to come down. Look at that muscle in the leg. I'm gonna do an anatomy study. This is the guy to look at, because man, look at the definition here in these muscles. That's intense, and they're engaged because he's pushing off of there. So extra. Looks like he just hit a slice, if I had to guess. Yeah, all these muscles are like super engaged, which is cool to see. Our proportions here are going a little wonky, but that happens sometimes. So we go ahead and try and fix it and correct some things, but it just happens on occasion. I need to go back in and really add more. I'm trying to like, I don't know how to explain it. I'm in between following this reference the way I should and using it as a jumping off point for the drawing, essentially. I don't know how to explain it exactly. Like, I'm not committing enough one way or the other. I could just tell that that's what's the problem with this pose and this drawing. I haven't decided whether I'm trying to do a very close representation of the pose or whether I'm trying to push it. Right. So I'm going to try one more time on this one because, and I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to push it a little bit more because I did not like how that one turned out. So we're going to just try again. And this time I'm going to kind of just feel my way through it a little bit more and see if the results will be, because I'm going to try this time to not be so caught up in the reference, I guess. I'm going to try and do more of a feel of how this drawing is, just to see how it might turn out. And I might even put in the racket because it's so almost crucial to this pose to know what is happening that I think it loses something if we don't have the racket in here. So I'll just rough it in. Doesn't have to be perfect, but all right. So I kind of prefer this version to the first one, I think, because the first one is just, it wasn't. This is a rough pose, not gonna lie. This is a tough one. The head's in the wrong place. Might be part of the problem. Get the neck in there. But yeah, that's a tricky pose. Just can't see the back arm, and it's just. But I think I like the second one better. I'll go in and my cheating. All right. All right. Well, it's better than it was, so I'll take it. Eiley says the arm is tricky. I agree. Oh, and the lighting. Let me see if I can. So arm is tricky. Totally agree. And then the lighting makes it hard to tell which upper leg is in front. It's just, yeah, you could tell that because it's twisted and he's in this weird perspective, and his one leg is coming forward because he's just finished it and he's in the middle of probably a slide step. So it's just that's just a tricky pose in general. Here it is in large form if you want to pause it. Did I do this one? Sorry, I'll do this one too in case you wanted to pause it. And then we'll move on to this one, which again, if you want to pause first. But yeah, that last one is a lot of times when you're doing a heavy action pose, especially in sport, it could be tricky. You have somebody who's super muscular. That's when it really pays to know anatomy well, because when we're talking about like this one, there's not a lot of like the lines are very smooth. So you don't have to guess at a lot. Well, not even guess. You don't have to eliminate little bumps and wrinkles and things. Whereas in that last pose, you kind of did. All right, we'll tackle this one. And then, like I said, it's going to be a rather short live stream today. That's okay. It's better to have a couple shorter ones than miss them. But I did want to get in some gesture drawing practice because I'm going to be extremely busy with a number of other projects for the next few days, at least, if not a little longer. So I'm trying to get that practice in while I can. Okay, so now here's an interesting thing which we could talk about for a second. When it comes to our line of motion, our main line, because normally we would follow the torso and the pelvis. When you have somebody sitting, and especially when somebody's sitting forward like this, we kind of run into a problem here, because this partial line is technically what I would call the main line in a sense. But it ends at her butt because she's sitting. So what we could do is, if we wanted to kind of still capture some of the main line, we could bring it down like this, but then continue it down to here. We would just have to know that this leg is going to come out. And so this line doesn't really mean anything. It's just kind of finishes out that main line. The alternative to that is we could come down like this and finish off like here. And that could be our main line to this pose. And again, this part of the line doesn't really represent anything, but it would complete the flow of this particular pose. And then finally, technically, you could probably do something like this as your main line, but I don't like that one as much personally. I would probably go with one of the others. So for me, I'm going to just finish it out here in the sitting pose, and then that's when I'll go in and put in the legs from this point. Even though it doesn't quite finish the flow of the pose, I think that you'll end up with better results, or I will hopefully end up with better results. This toe is down there, and then our shoulders are kind of hunched with this part of the back. So our torso is going to be up here like this, and again we're kind of coming forward, so that makes it a little trickier, but it's doable still. And then our pelvis is going to be in here, which makes it a little bit trickier because this is all fat and muscles. So technically that little extra bit, we could do this two ways. There's a lot of options with this pose. We could bring the pelvis all the way out, right? Kind of like this as our pelvis shape. But anatomically, our points that we would be thinking about are going to be in this range. So the pelvis would be in, and then we have this extra bit on top. So again, there's I wouldn't say there's necessarily a right or wrong way to do that. It's just kind of like what is gonna work best for you. And I'm gonna say also I will redo this one again with just shapes because there are some really nice shapes in here that I'm not getting with the method of gesture that I'm using currently. So I would like to redo this one after with additional shapes, I think. But for now, I'll just continue and we'll finish it out. Okay. So we've got this leg in here, knee down, bring that down to here. All right, so that kind of captures that decently well. It's muddy in some areas. I'm gonna just go in and clean up a few spots just so that we get some clarity there. And then we'll add in our shading back here, and then that comes forward, so we're not going to worry about that as much. Have to get that in there, and then we'll get our back leg. There we go. All right, not bad. And then for some reason the hair on this one, I think, completes it in a sense, so I'm going to just add that in roughly. Okay, so that works for that. Like I said, I'm going to go in and do one that's just shapes on this because there's some really nice shapes in here that I'd like to capture. And I might not even use those shapes in a gesture drawing or a figure drawing or a pose in the future. I just like these. These shapes are really appealing to me. So I'm going to just kind of go in and draw some shapes that I see because I rather like them. And then I always try and keep an eye out for like really appealing shapes because you never know when you'll need some shapes to just do something with whatever it is. And I find that this particular shape is really nice right there, that one. And then, I mean, it just this, in my opinion, this pose is just really full of very lovely shapes. This arm has a really nice shape to it. So I'm kind of just taking pieces because they're again they're just nice shapes that I like. Even like in the neck here with the way the shadows are falling, it's got this just really interesting little shape, and I dig that shape. Like it's really a cool shape that you see in right here, like that's just a neat little shape. And those are the sort of things you could just pull out. Obviously, this is not a figure at this point, but these are interesting shapes that just by copying and studying, same with this, like this shoe and this foot is nice because it kind of comes down and then the shoe is over it. And then, I mean, it's just a neat shoe shape. Shoe seems weird. Like it seems off. It doesn't seem like a reasonable shoe in a sense, but I'm sure it is. It's just a regular shoe, but it seems clunkier than I don't know if it's supposed to, or maybe it's just the proportions of the model, but that's just a really interesting shoe to me, to have it be like particular clunkiness. Anyway, Hailey says the feet look short and thick. Yes, they do. They seem like chunky and bulky and almost a little out of proportion in a sense. And I think that it's probably an intentional choice by the person who did the not character design, but the costume design essentially, because you think about more like if you're doing a character, you might go ahead and put on these like big clunky shoes or clunky boots, right? On top of some thin leg or something, and it adds some really interesting dynamics to the contrast and the character design and that sort of thing. So I'm getting rid of that because that's ugly, but just an idea. Okay, cool. Whoops, I grabbed the wrong layer. There we go. All right, so like I said, just kind of keeping things short and simple today. Just getting some practice in because it's necessary to do that, to keep working and keep chugging along and making things better. I appreciate folks stopping by. If you're watching this recorded, again, definitely consider going through and pausing when you have the image in front of you. Give it a whirl. Do some drawing. It will make you a better artist. The more you do this sort of stuff, the better off you're going to probably be. You need to practice well. Like you can't just throw stuff at the page and expect it's magically going to make you better. But there's something to be said for getting that pencil mileage in. Even if you only have half an hour or 20 minutes, it's still worth doing because you just never know where it'll lead, and it's always going to keep improving your skill. So this page is now done. I will put together the next set of images for the next time, and we'll move along and do some more gesture drawing next time. In terms of future live streams, there is going to be a little bit of a break. Probably at least next week. There's probably not going to be any live streams. I will be off and doing other work, and then Ferdinand is also off and doing other things. So just keeping you posted that there will be a little bit of a lull on the YouTube channel, but then we'll be back in action hopefully the following week and have some more great content for you guys. So that's it for today. Thanks for stopping by, Hailey, and everybody else who was hanging out and watching, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good weekend, everybody. Bye.